Hello everyone, today we are going to return to Jurassic Park. We're going to be looking at a short documentary that chronicles the filming of the original movie, some of the behind the scenes stuff, some of the concept art, and a lot of the Stan Winston material that went into making this film. A lot of good stuff here. You don't want to miss this video. Let's get right into it.
And instruction guide.
Weapon, guy face, all faces, weapons, faces, and then right to Bob. We continue over, and we have another taser guy in this side, with two more guys with guns coming in. They'll start crawling right toward me. 1, 2, 3. Go. Tie it in! Get in there! This thing got dropped, and grab this thing then. Yeah.
I am so happy that Jurassic World Rebirth is being shot on film and not digitally. I am a huge proponent of shooting everything on film. Not a huge fan of digital filmography. I've always wanted to be on the set of a movie, and I don't want to be on the set of some rinky-dink movie. I want to be on the set of a Jurassic movie. I want to be on the set of any movie, honestly, as long as it's a big AAA Hollywood blockbuster, just for the experience. It is still kind of a small life goal of mine. Well, small. Kill to be an extra in one of these films. Could you imagine me?
That's terrific. Get it. Pull them all the way in. All the way in. All the way in. All the way in. Oh, that's great. That's great. That's a cut right there. Great. Fabulous. Okay. Great.
It was very important to me to be a kid directing Jurassic Park, because like most kids, one of my first longest words was Triceratops, Stegosaurus. My dad would always take me to see the dinosaurs in Philadelphia, the Franklin Institute of Technology. There was a natural history museum there with big dinosaur bones. And so I made that movie really as a youngster, remembering how much fun it was to imagine with such yearning that someday wouldn't it be great to run into a dinosaur and meet up with one without being eaten by it. And I just remember making the movie with that philosophy. For everybody that had ever wondered and been fascinated with that whole era of the dinosaur, I wanted to make a movie for all those dinosaur lovers.
Dr. Grant, my dear Dr. Sattler, welcome to Jurassic Park. The most advanced amusement park in the entire world.
What do they got in there, King Kong?
We've made living biological attractions so astounding that they'll capture the imagination of the entire planet.
How'd you do this?
I'll show you. Very good. Push. Very good.
God.
It's sad to say, but if this movie had been made today, I can't guarantee there would have been any puppets or any animatronics on set. Everything would have just been a digital shot.
Jurassic Park wasn't a monster movie. It was a movie about animals long ago gone extinct that through the miracle of science and technology are brought into the 20th century. And that's what Michael Crichton had conceived in this amazing book he wrote. And all of a sudden, the second I read his book, I realized that we weren't dealing with monsters, and this was not going to be a genre of horror, science fiction, fantasy, or back to the famous Monsters of Filmland magazine culture. But instead, this was a really credible look at how dinosaurs might someday be brought back right alongside modern mankind. And that really fascinated me, and that immediately set my own template for not making this a monster movie.
I can't begin to tell you, because Jurassic Park was such a huge moment in filmmaking, and it was so important to the history of film. I can't tell you how important it was that things turned out the way that it did. In any other director's hand, and I'm not one of those people who just go around, giving, Steven Spielberg ass pats because he's Steven Spielberg. The man's work is noteworthy for a reason. It speaks for itself. But had this been any other director at the time, it probably would have been a messy, stop motion animated 80s monster kind of nonsense picture that just wouldn't have had the power and the impact and the soul that this movie had.
One of the things that the book deals with, and the film too, and one of the sort of shaping concepts, is that this kind of research is tremendously expensive. And the question arises, who will pay for it? And at the moment, for better or worse, there isn't any pressing need to recreate a dinosaur. And in trying to think about how that might happen, or who would pay for it, the only thing that I could think of was that it would come from a desire for entertainment.
We can charge anything we want, $2,000 a day, $10,000 a day, and people will pay it.
This park was not built to cater only for the super rich. Everyone in the world has the right to enjoy these animals.
Michael Crichton had come up with this spectacular notion that if you created a theme park where the DNA could recreate dinosaurs, and you would have a place to keep them in an environment where people could feel safe, just like with other wild animals of the jungle, you could go and actually see a dinosaur.
Dilophosaurus.
It felt real, it felt extraordinary, and it had tremendous dramatic potential.
There's no doubt our attractions will drive kids out of their minds.
Well, I was planning to make the movie, as much as possible with full-size animatronic dinosaurs. And the only person on the face of the planet that could pull that off was Stan Winston.
Stan the man. Yeah, no other studio would have been able to get it just as right as Stan Winston got it.
He had an amazing shop. He had great artisans, and he had great technologists working with him.
We're all dinosaur fans. Everyone who does the type of work we do is a dinosaur fan. So we said we'll do some drawings just to see if our concept and our feeling is in sync with what Steven's looking for in this film.
I was working for Stan Winston, who I had a very long career with, and Stan had us start designing dinosaurs. And Mark Crash McCreary was essential in that. And I was fortunate to have a hand in, coming up with color schemes and things like that.
I've seen a lot of this artwork over the years float around on the internet. And let me do you guys a big favor. Let me actually just go in here and move my big head for a moment. Let you really take in the majesty of this artwork. I do need to hunt down all of the Jurassic Park concept art. I do believe some of the Jurassic Park 3 and the Lost World artwork is still out there too online, because as you know, when something hits the internet, it's pretty much forever. So I'm confident that I can hunt the material down. I just need to get off my bum and do it.
The drawings I had done initially were more about action and kind of, this is the idea we want to ultimately to walk away with, is that, wow, these things were real animals that could think and move. And we went through a lot of iterations just drawing-wise.
And I feel like I say this in every video that I do, but it's really important to me that these are seen as animals and not monsters. It's the same when it comes to something like, let's say, Pokemon, when we're over on the gaming side of my YouTube stuff. Pokemon are not tools of war. They're not monsters. It's why Team Rocket is considered the evil villain of the whole thing. It's using Pokemon like that. It kind of mirrors animals in our world. Animals are not the same as humans. They don't have a sense of morality and right and wrong. They're driven by instinct, as to where it's us, it's the humans that put intent on the creatures that we see in movies, from anything from swamp monsters to vampires to King Kong. We went to Skull Island and we kidnapped Kong and we brought him back to New York, and you expect there not to be a total, breakdown there where he loses it and goes bananas. No pun intended.
The ground floor of the process was to come up with the look of each dinosaur and to weave in information now that was coming out about the dinosaurs to try to make these as accurate as possible.
And look at the half-moon-shaped bones on the wrist. It's no wonder these guys learn how to fly.
Well, the first person we went to was Jack Horner, not just to achieve an authenticity, but we wanted a credible resource that could back up several theories that...
I want to say Jack Horner has been their consultant for every Jurassic movie they've done. They've done 6 films so far. I don't know if they consulted with him on Rebirth. I'd have to look into that. But he's a good man to go to for consulting when it comes to these. And here's the thing, too. Yeah, we're 6 movies in at this point. So we've gotten pretty far away from the original production. We've gotten pretty far away from the novels and a lot of the original intent behind the material, creative liberties, so on and so forth. But with Jurassic as a franchise, I will say that they have put in a lot of care, not just to randomly toss these animals on screen and make them chase people. One of the bigger, I think, complaints that a lot of people have about Jurassic as a franchise is that it's always on an island. It's always set on an island every time. Why do they keep going back to the island? And in Jurassic World, it was, why did they build the theme park after all? That's crazy. Even though, if you think about it, that's really what would have happened in the real world. But it's always just been people complaining about it being teeth chasing people. But the people are they keep putting themselves in that position. But the filmmakers have gone through exhausting lengths to make sure that they're using the latest in paleontology to make these animals as accurate as they could. Now, I say that, and there was the controversy during the Jurassic Park 3 era, where people were saying, well, most dinosaurs might have actually had feathers, or maybe kind of like a soft feathery, or maybe even just a small like amount of hair or feather or something. They would have had kind of like a down on them, even if it hadn't been like baby bird levels of just hairy fuzz. That never really came up in the films. The most they did were the quills on the velociraptors in Jurassic Park 3. It wasn't really until, I think, Dominion, where you saw your first full-feathered dinosaur. But they have at least tried to somewhat stick to what science is saying at the time. I know that the Spinosaurus is kind of a joke in paleontology because he keeps getting redesigned every few years based on new knowledge.
We were sort of expounding, and one was that dinosaurs eventually evolved into birds.
And even the word raptor means bird of prey.
And that's something that Jack Horner believes in and could defend if necessary. And Jack Horner became our credibility.
Then we started working on maquettes, and we had done a little small 1/16 scale Tyrannosaurus Rex maquette. Then we did a 5th scale maquette that had all of the details on it, so Stephen could really see what it was going to be. And then we projected that up large.
You like it?
I love it.
It's coming along real good, isn't it?
The first time I saw the T-Rex was at Stan Winston's shop.
My kids would say, where does the poo-poo come from, Daddy?
I had a chance to actually operate it myself, which was a thrill. Where the movements were so smooth and so authentic. When it would snap its head around, it didn't have a recoil. The head would go as fast as you can imagine and would come to a complete stop and look right at you. Its eyes would stereo focus right on you. That was absolutely frightening to watch. And he also kept it moving. Even when it was still, it was breathing, it had muscles flicking, and he kept every animal alive.
Yeah, that was really important, and it's funny that he says that, because I was just thinking about this the other night as I was laying in bed. A lot of puppet movies that you saw in the 70s and 80s and whatnot, you can tell it's a puppet, because if it's not in motion or talking or something, then it's just kind of there. But with Jurassic Park, the animals were breathing. Stan Winston, of course, makes sure that they're layered. You can see texture and muscle tone and what have you under the skin. So you're getting the best of the best, basically. These things are completely believable. This movie blew everybody's mind. People were just awestruck.
We were building all of the dinosaurs, all the animatronic ones, kind of in parallel, because there was so much work to be done. We actually had a baby Triceratops going, which never made it to that movie. That scene got cut out. Plus, there's the famous scene in the movie where the big foot comes down into the mud. So that was going to become a separate animatronic piece.
The spitter, velociraptors, the brachiosaur, or the T-Rex. Stan could give them utterly authentic movements, far beyond where we were technologically in 1973-74 with Jaws. But how we were going to get the dinosaurs to run, how we were going to get them to even be in the movie in wide shots was always going to be the old-fashioned way, through stop-motion animation. The same way that Willis O'Brien made King Kong, just taking that little armature on a small maquette and just moving it just a millimeter at a time. And Phil Tippett was hired by me to do that because he was the best in the business.
The first call I got was from Kathy Kennedy at home. And I just finished working on this big stop motion project and was absolutely beat. And Kathy calls up and goes, she's all like perky, goes, "Hey Phil, we got this really cool thing we're gonna do with dinosaurs. It's really gonna be a lot of fun." And I went like, "Yeah, really? Okay." Fine. And we all started to plan it out as the conventional stop motion, go motion, rod puppet, high speed with a little bit of computer graphics.
And then one day I got a call from Dennis Murin at ILM, who already had the job of doing Jurassic Park with Phil Tippett. And Dennis said that he thought that he could pull off a full-size dinosaur that would be authentic to the eye. And so he started doing tests. And the first tests he did was a whole herd of Gallimimus, just the skeletal structure of the Gallimimus, running through a still photograph of Hawaii. It was several angles of this. And it was so authentic and smooth, I actually said, well, that's the future. That's the way it's going to be from now on.
A couple of the guys, Steve Williams and Mark DePay, were trying to get even closer and do a T-Rex and see how that would work out. And it looked really successful. Then we decided, okay, let's go ahead and do a real shot. And Stefan Fangmeyer lit it, Steve animated it, and we got a shot that just knocked everybody out and was beyond what you could do with stop motion or anything else.
And I see this video a lot circling around on the socials. Look at her.
A videotape came from ILM, and we saw this image of what they had done, and we're just, wow, everything changed.
And this technology really kind of, changed my movie forever. And I think in that sense, changed the world forever.
I agree with that.
It was April 20th, 1992. I remember we called it Black Monday because we got the word that production was going digital.
At that point in time, it's like big emotional moments, like, when your dog dies. You know your dog's going to die, but when your dog dies, it like hits you really hard. Because it did seem like everything that I had built up until that time was like, we're not going to do it that way anymore.
It's like suddenly, here we are, we're extinct, we're the dinosaurs. And of course that irony wasn't lost on any of us.
We're out of a job. Don't you mean extinct?
Because all the computer graphics.
That line was actually ad-libbed by Jeff Goldblum. Yeah, I get that a lot of people that were working on the puppetry and whatnot, or not puppetry, but like the stop motion stuff, kind of got a little screwed when they decided to go full digital with it. Well, not full digital. The puppets were there, the animatronics were there, but they decided to forget the stop motion stuff. Again, I'm sorry, the stop motion animation is just so ugly. I hate it.
Guys were doing things like, I had no idea what they were doing, you know, and it was just like a monitor and a mouse, and it was like, Jesus.
I'm a firm believer in whatever is the best technique to achieve a shot for the film is how it should be done. If it needs to be CGI, it should be.
Right.
But if you can get it live in camera, then why not? Because some of the best acting comes from reacting.
You know, it encouraged us to even work harder and, you know, make everything that much more convincing in a realistic on-stage puppet sense.
The reason that Steven still wanted, obviously, Phil involved was because he realized that his crew had information and experience that was just as important. It's just the toolbox had changed. So what was developed was the DID, or Dinosaur Input Device, which was a traditional stop-motion armature with motion encoders, which would translate anything we animated into a computer model. So it bridged the gap of stop-motion animation into the digital age.
It was exhilarating when we realized that there was a new way to do this and that we were going to be able to create a lifelike looking dinosaur on a level that we never before imagined, and that we were on to a whole new way of looking at Jurassic Park.
So you two...
I guess I never really noticed that before or knew that. They were able to still take the stop motion animation team and use them somewhat. Okay, well, there you go. That's good.
You dig up dinosaurs?
Well,
Try to.
I bring scientists, you bring a rock star.
If you make a humorless movie about dinosaurs coming back to life in 1993, nobody's gonna care about your movie.
I think establishing characters like Laura Dern and Sam and Jeff, it lent a whole sense of credibility to the storytelling because you really believed that they were scientists.
why?
Did I go too fast?
Yeah, the human characters have always been just as important in Jurassic Park. At least to me, I can't speak for other people, but the human characters have always been just as important as the animals or anything else that's going on. Now, if you watch any of my Let's Play stuff, I do usually complain when it comes to like Pokemon. I say, I don't care about the humans. I don't care about the stories that are going on. I just care about the Pokemon. I want to capture them, train them, raise them. I want it to be my adventure. But Game Freak always just seems hell-bent on adding in their own BS little story where you're playing with children. It's always revolving around children. And I'm 40 years old. And I don't want to hear the argument of, why are you still playing Pokemon? That ship has sailed on that argument. Video games are universal and for everyone. I can understand it if I were sitting here watching Blue's Clues or something, you know, then you might have an argument. But no, there are some things that, while you might think they're aimed directly at children, adults are still going to enjoy it just as much. Something like Pokemon is meant for general audiences. So that, yeah, your argument on that is invalid, in my opinion. But where I don't really care as much about the humans in like Pokemon or whatever, in Jurassic, they've always been kind of pivotal to what's happening.
I go too fast. I did a flyby. No, give me that big glass of water. We're going to conduct an experiment.
Those characters, when they're postulating, better have a little wit. And David Koepp gave it all the wit. Gave Jeff Goldblum his lecherous crush on the paleobotanist played by Laura Dern. And with Sam...
Is it David Koepp? I've been calling him David Cope. Of course, he did just call him Jeff Goldblum. It could just be his accent.
Sam Neill being right in the middle, watching this guy hitting on his girl, where Jeff doesn't even know that it's his girl. I mean, that was all David Koepp's kind of invention.
Hammer? Look at that one, Kelly. Look at that one, quickly.
We had to pretend to be scared, and Steven Spielberg
Right.
going through a bullhorn, you know. So that was kind of more funny than anything. And the acting part was not laughing.
Ha, very nice.
It's not easy.
The three of us are in the Jeep and we start to glance, and as we glanced in the tree, and I'm supposed to look up at its neck, there was a giant paper X on it, you know, like a Sharpied X on a piece of white paper. And I just remember looking up like, okay, and that's the dinosaur.
You crazy son of a bitch, you did.
And we did close-ups, and I remember he'd never rehearsed. Ready, Jeff? Okay, there you are. You're seeing the dinosaur. Oh my gosh, just keep rolling.
That looks great.
You're looking at it. You can't believe what you're seeing. Is it real? It now strikes you funny. You don't even know why. You know, and he's just talking me through it, and I'm kind of acting. I enjoyed that a lot.
You know, the first sort of few days of filming, you really had to get your bearings because it was all so new for us. I mean, just to be in sync with what we were looking at and what it would feel like and look like. We had no idea what we were going to see. Can we go see it? Can we go?
Yeah, relax. There's plenty of time this afternoon. My dear,
T-Rex.
welcome to Jurassic Park.
The actors certainly did their jobs, and they believed who they were, and that's all an audience needs, is to believe that the characters are believing in themselves, and that's what the actors did so well.
We've been in pre-production for 50 million years on this movie, Jurassic Park, by golly.
He just hung out with us. He bonded with us. He played games with us a lot on the set. And in between playing games, he would throw in a question about our upcoming scene. And he worked with us so seamlessly that we would do anything for him in the performance on the scene.
I have to say they did a pretty good job as far as, you know, kid actors go. A lot of times kids will ham it up, mess up. The kids throughout the Jurassic series have always been pretty good kid actors.
So you really admire him. To you, he's like a movie star because of your interest in paleontology. This is everybody else's equivalent of a Tom Cruise or a Kevin Costner or a Sam Neill.
I think that he just had a lot of respect for kids and had a lot of respect for their talent, you know, and their intuition. I always felt so much freedom with him. I always felt like I was a part of the collaborative process, you know, that it wasn't just he was telling me what to do or he was talking down to me. It was always, what do you think? And what do you think we should do for this scene? And he trusted my ideas and he let me do that.
And then my teacher...
Well, I mean, a lot of it had to do with the fact of the material. I mean, Steven Spielberg knew that he was making a movie for everyone, but he knew more than anything it was going to be the kids that went crazy and went bananas for this film. So it's invaluable. You have two kids on set who can give immediate, direct feedback in that moment. That's priceless.
tells me about this other book by a guy named Backer.
And he said, slammed on his face, he slid. Good.
And it was that kind of relationship where I felt like a part of the gang rather than like an outsider looking in that I think brings out such great performances in children.
Grandpa!
Kids!
And I'm a big fan of Richard Attenborough's. I knew Dickie before I cast him in Jurassic Park and liked him a lot and just saw him as John Hammond.
Let's get the camera right in here, see if we can get Richard right in here. Richard, you might have, yeah, there we go, yes sir. Being an actor and a director, he knows to move that much farther to that side.
You know, it was interesting to watch Hammond's character suddenly realizing that he might have gone mad. He doesn't utter those words, but he's certainly feeling, what have I done? And only Richard Attenborough, I think, could have pulled that off with such dignity. And also...
Yeah, because here's the thing, Hammond in the books is not the John Hammond in the film. I don't know if you guys have ever read the novels on top of watching the films, but it's two completely different John Hammonds. The John Hammond in the novel is kind of an asshole. Big one.
With such tragedy.
Hold on to your butts. Sam Jackson was in it, you know, before he became a big star. You could tell Sam was going to get eaten by a dinosaur because they have him smoking earlier on when he's working.
How many lines of code are there?
About 2 million. And the guy that smokes always gets eaten. That's one rule about dinosaur films.
Mr. Arnold.
Because it takes place ostensibly on an island, we were thinking about shooting in Costa Rica. But Stephen was a little concerned about the infrastructure, that is, whether we'd have roads and whether we could get equipment there and other kinds of facilities that we would need. So we opted for a place where he had worked before, the island of Kauai in Hawaii. And that became the exterior jungles during the day.
For you,
Hey, look!
simply appropriate icon.
Are we gonna hit that?
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park was a tour attraction. It was about that. So each step that you got involved with was about constructing the actual journey as ride or amusement entertainment.
Rick Carter designed the movie, and the job that he was faced with was creating a theme park built in Costa Rica. So the theme park had to kind of echo the local cultural design sensibilities of what we might adapt in an environment like that.
Working with Rick Carter was great because he was so generous with giving me so many areas to get involved with, you know, again, from the storyboarding to props and vehicles and sets and all that. There's the scene where Nedry goes out into the jungle at night, and we had to get something for him to put the DNA in. It just said in the script, it just said a shaving can. So I went over to Laurel Canyon, the Long's Drugs down there, and I went through the different aisles, and I found a Barbasol can of shaving cream. At the time, I liked the name, and I liked how it graphically it stood off from the shelf from the others, and so just as a whim, this became the can that Nedry used.
There's enough coolant inside for 36 hours.
No menthol?
So you can see.
It's such a nifty little design too. I don't know how the genius came up
Top
with
off,
this.
and the guys, you know, down the shop did a cool mechanism for it. I think that's a Compsognathus right there. Very cool.
Okay, quiet, please. Rehearsal.
I think the first time we saw one of Stan's dinosaurs, we were filming in Kauai. It's a scene where we wander out and there's a sick triceratops which is breathing, and you could go right up to it and its skin was all wrinkly and real. It was extraordinary.
That was one of the cases where there was a dinosaur there, full size, laying down, and the 7 or 8 people who were operating it were unseen, kind of hidden from the actor's immediate view. And one person was working the blinking eyes and the tongue and the breathing body. And when we first came upon this thing, wow, it looked real.
It was kind of a defining moment for us because this was the first dinosaur to really be put on film. And it was the first dinosaur to interact with all the actors.
And action.
And
that really helped too. The fact that, especially with the first Jurassic Park, this is the first time anybody is seeing puppets like this and animatronics like this. So it really helped the actors kind of sell it more. Not to detract from their acting or anything. Everybody did a great job and would have done a great job regardless, but having that extra oomph of like, wow, this is an experience, you know, it helped sell it.
And, you know, we were very confident in what we were doing, but at the same time, there's a pressure. You know, it's your baby. You're unveiling this to everyone.
Oh, wow.
You show up and you're just kind of taken aback a second because it's so lifelike. It's so real. You feel the energy from it. And you kind of don't want to even get too close. But when you like kind of get more comfortable, all you want to do is put your hands on it and just like touch it and see like, is this real? Like, how is this? Even the texture, you know, the feeling of it. I just remember being blown away.
You're right. There's no trace of lilac berries.
I think Steven gets a kick out of that. My dream was to work with Steven Spielberg. And so for 20 years now, at any restaurant I've ever been in, there's a child under 10 that goes up to me and says, "Are you the lady who stuck her hand in the dinosaur poopy?" It's like, that is the question I get most commonly in my career.
Thanks. What are her symptoms?
Oh, imbalance, disorientation, labored breathing.
When I did my scene with the Triceratops, I also had the great privilege of working as an actor alongside Jerry Mullen, who is in that scene with me. And because he's one of the crew, having started in other capacities before producing, he knew how to run a set. And we could have never shot in the difficulties and the limitations of Kauai. We could have never done it without Jerry.
And then about 3 weeks in, Hurricane Aniki came in.
I'm going to try my best at some point to get out there. I would love to go out there, and I think you can still go out there as a tourist attraction. Like, they have the little wooden sign that says Jurassic Park was filmed here or whatever, and they have the log that's in the film where Grant and the kids hide. Why am I having a moment? The herd. I'm sorry.
Tim, can you tell me what they are?
Gallimimus.
The Gallimimus. Wow, my brain just packed up and went on vacation. I would love to go out there and do touristy stuff, and since it is technically a state, it wouldn't be super hard to get out there. We wouldn't have to worry about passports and all that. We could just plane and go. But of course, it's Hawaii, so that's going to be an expensive trip. Since I live all the way on the eastern side of the United States, it's quite a trek. But one day it is my goal to try to get out there. You never know.
We turned up for work one morning, and we were told, we're not going to work today because there's a hurricane coming in. Actually, it seems to be heading straight for us.
The hurricane hit dead on. Landfall was our hotel, and it was a Category 5 hurricane, sustained winds of 165 miles an hour with gusts to 185, and the hurricane lasted for 9 hours. I'll never forget when the eye of the storm passed directly over the hotel. We got out and looked up. It was beautiful, blue sky above, and just a wall of white clouds surrounding the hotel, slowly moving about like this. I'd never seen anything like it before. It was a special effect.
We were confined to the ballroom of the hotel we were staying in. Apart from the fact that it was slightly exciting, a lot of it was rather boring.
And then that night, we camped out and figured out where we were going to stay as all the lights were off. So I remember Steven Spielberg, he had the flashlight. He was going, I'll show you how lighting changes a story. Horror story, love story. Horror story, love story. And then we woke up the next morning when the sun came up, seeing the devastation. And it was amazing.
It was interesting to see that all the skills that go in to creating the community that makes a movie ended up creating the community that ended up really helping everybody after an event like that.
And it really changes a dynamic on a movie when you've survived something together. And I have never felt prouder as a member of a crew that I was privileged to work with than on the day of the hurricane.
Richard Attenborough slept through the whole thing. I have to commend him. When the hurricane passed, I said, Dickie, you slept through the whole hurricane. He said, oh, dear boy, darling, I survived the Blitz. So this was nothing compared to the Blitz. That's a true story. I love this guy.
Well, there you go, folks. I hope you enjoyed the trip down memory lane. It's always fascinating to look at behind-the-scenes stuff like that, and that's one of the major reasons that I opted to do this playlist on my channel so that I could share my love of this franchise with you guys. I know that my content can come across rather boring, mundane, tedious, whatever you want to, however you want to put it. You know, I have long format gaming videos. It's an extremely niche audience that's going to watch something like that, because typically people watch Let's Plays for the streamer or the content creator. If somebody wanted to watch just for the game, they would watch like a no commentary long play video on YouTube. So, you know, when I started doing this, I went in knowing that it might not be successful. People might not end up liking what I do. I might never grow on the platform. So after I got like, I don't know, what, 6, 7, 8 years in, I decided that since it is what it is and it's never going to grow beyond what it has in 8 years, I might as well do something that's really near and dear to me. And this playlist was born. Now, I did sit down and do this entire playlist over the course of a year or so, and I had maybe about 50 videos, give or take. But again, I made a lot of these videos at a very tumultuous time in my life where I was playing around with different medications, trying to get my antidepressants just right, find the brand that I needed to be on, find the dosage that was right for me. It kept me a zombie a lot of the time. I was also dealing with undiagnosed sleep apnea. So I was kind of sleepwalking through a lot of those Jurassic Park and Jurassic World videos in the playlist. So I decided recently that I needed to scrap them all and just restart the playlist so I can focus on it being a product that's semi of good quality. You know, I am not a film director. I'm not really talented in the vein of like content creation or what have you. So everything I do is kind of just a passion project of wanting to make something, wanting to do something, and that's kind of why we are here. But I hope you guys have enjoyed the few videos that are up in the playlist so far. I hope you continue to enjoy and continue to watch. You can follow me on Blue Sky and Mastodon now. I'm trying to wrap my head around what in the world the Fediverse is, but I still can't quite understand what that is. I'm getting older, and I'm finally getting to that point where technology is starting to evolve beyond what I'm capable of keeping up with. I'm becoming an old fuddy-duddy. But either way, Jurassic World Rebirth is coming up in a couple of months, and probably vlog going to see it, as well as make more, you know, videos for this playlist. But that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you guys for checking it out, and I'll see you back here next time.